For the first time in 20 years, the United States not at war. We've turned the page. All the unmatched strength, energy, and commitment, will, and resources of our nation are now fully and squarely focused on what's ahead of us, not what was behind.
Like 2 days ago when you killed 7 kids on a drone strike, despite the chaos and failures during the withdrawal from Afghanistan, astoundingly, President Biden boasting to the UN General Assembly that America is ready to move on. Really? Retired Army Ranger and Florida Congressman Brian Mast served in Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. He joins us now to react. Congressman, your reaction to the president's speech. We're moving on? Really?
The president is absolutely delusional about us not being in a war. He's simply made the war far more dangerous than what it was before, lacking intelligence on the ground in places like Afghanistan, making it a more dangerous region, ignoring the fact that we're in the greatest financial war that we've ever seen with China, but never uttering a word about China in his 34-minute speech to the UN General Assembly. And the only thing that he really talked about when it came to border, where we're being invaded in our country right now, was calling the climate crisis a borderless crisis, and calling for reasons to let more people in, and thinking that giving away more U.S. dollars, funding those in South Central America, Haiti, other places, is actually going to stop that invitation to come across our border illegally. He's missing every single war that our nation is in right now.
Meanwhile, the Taliban is looking to put their own ambassador into the UN. They want to be recognized and grab that chair. Amir Khan Muttaqi, his name was sent to the UN General Assembly, and they want him confirmed as a representative of the Taliban's Afghanistan. Should we do that?
No, we absolutely should not be recognizing the Taliban. Again, terrorist organization looking to lead their country by Sharia, jihadist law, not let women work, not let young girls go to school, kill anybody that they disagree with religiously or otherwise. As we speak right now, the Taliban is not just still hunting those Americans and those that worked with the U.S. in Afghanistan. They're actually sending out government forms, government Taliban forms, to say, hey, do you have any information on who somebody is, where they're hiding, when they worked with the United States of America, gathering intelligence to further their hunt for those that helped America.
So the Taliban 2.0 is a lot like Taliban. They have not changed at all. The women's ministry have been disbanded. The women have been told to go home and not go to school, and if they're going to go to school, it'll be separately. So, Congressman, were you astounded that we're now going to be a country that goes diplomacy first, not war first? What an insult to previous regimes that any American president wants to go to war first?
No, when you look at what this administration is doing and ignoring about the threats that we face, let's look at that in terms of Israel and what just happened last night, where we support a program known as Iron Dome that has knocked thousands, probably tens of thousands of rockets out of the sky over Israel, intended to indiscriminately kill civilians or anywhere else. Democrats pulled that program out of funding. Why? Because they fundamentally believe in supporting the terrorist Hamas through a two-state solution that would become a country welcome to the UN, just like the Taliban are being welcomed to the UN right now, creating another place in the Middle East where we're going to have to go out there and probably send service members to war at some point, because they're creating another terrorist country. Layer that on top of Iran, layer that on top of China, Russia, and now what's going on in the Taliban. They are making the most powder keg situation that we've ever seen throughout the Middle East.
And lastly, how about sneaking this into your speech? Never again will a country unleash a worldwide pandemic on the world and refuse an investigation into how it started and deny where it emanated and the origins of it. How about sneaking that in, where almost 700,000 Americans died because of the irresponsibility of the Cold War we don't want to start with a nation he won't mention?
Yeah, well, we know that President Biden is intimidated every day that he sits in office. He was intimidated every step along the way of that withdrawal in Afghanistan, leaving our embassy, leaving Bagram, leaving on the Taliban's timeline. We also know that he's entirely intimidated by China, refusing to mention them at all by name, to call out their specific atrocities, everything related to COVID. Intimidation is the key factor in what's driving every single decision for President Biden. Biden. And we all know that we seek peace through strength. That's how Americans operate. We won't have peace because we don't have strength, and that's the fact.
We alienated our allies. We embarrassed ourselves on the world stage, and he goes on the world stage, gives a speech he should be embarrassed about, and refuses to take questions from any press. Congressman can continue to not forget about Afghanistan. We have thousands of allies and Americans still behind enemy lines. Thanks so much.
All the best, Brian.
You got it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.